Hello, my name is William, and this is,
Ike Ramos.
and we are here today to see what you do and how what you do works.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So, can you tell us what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think to kind of start from the beginning, I was an educator first. So I was a high school teacher. I taught elementary, was a principal, both, elementary and secondary. And then I got into what we call ed tech, right? So while I was the principal, I was creating content or helping create the product for a company called Flocabulary, which uses like hip hop to teach concepts and content. You familiar with that? Have you
Very
seen it?
much so.
Cool. So that's my voice is on a lot of those songs. And then from there, I ended up working at a company called Nearpod, that's really popular with teachers and kids. And so I've been in this what we would call the ed tech industry, educational technology, for about 10 years. And I just joined a company that I'm really excited about called Prisms VR. And uh and Prisms VR, what we're doing there is we're using VR headsets, spatial computers, to teach math and science for middle school and high school. And the way we do it is just like, probably you and many of your peers are familiar with, like the Oculus and VR gaming and headsets. You get in the headset and you get transported to a whole nother world. And in that world, you get to experience math. You get to role play careers like architect, civil engineer, to learn why you need to learn the math. If you think about your own math experience, when you're in math class, what is one question you or your classmates always ask?
So I'm actually in algebra,
Yeah.
and a lot of it is just how do you do it?
How do you do it?
It's it's always to me, it's not exactly hard, but it's not easy.
Yeah, makes sense. What about, do you guys ever wonder when are you going to use that?
Yes. Oh yes.
So that's a common question, right? Why are we learning this? So in the Prisms VR headset, you get to see, oh, this algebra is actually important if I ever want to be an air traffic controller, or if I ever want to be an architect, or if I ever want to be a medical scientist. Like, you get to see why you need to learn the algebra. And then while you're in that world and you're playing the role of that architect or air traffic controller, you're learning all the algebra as well. So in a nutshell, that's what we do at Prisms. We leverage the power of spatial computers to make math more engaging for students like yourself.
And so I believe what you just said answers my next question. How can VR help students understand math?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So when I talk to folks about VR, I try to get them to not think about it as like gamification. It's way more than that. The modules at Prisms are carefully designed based on research. Now, what I mean by that is there's a lot of research already available that shows this. If you want to be good in math and science, what we would call, two of the STEM subjects or STEM areas, you got to have really strong spatial reasoning skills, and you have to have really great ability to abstract up from real world experiences. Now, those are just fancy ways of saying, let's start with spatial reasoning. Can you hold a 3D object in your mind and manipulate it without it losing its perspective, without losing perspective of it? Now, so that's being good in space, right? Doing things with your hands, being aware of the world around you. Abstracting up from real world experiences, all that means is, like, if you think of Isaac Newton, famous scientist, mathematician, if I was to drop my little headphone box, if I drop that, that just happened to me. That's something that physically happened in my world, right? And what a great mathematician would do is say, why did it fall at that speed? What if this box was bigger? What if I held the box higher? Is it going to fall at the same speed, fall faster? And so that's kind of like Isaac Newton sitting under the tree and an apple falls. The math happened to him. So when you're in the VR headsets at Prisms, the math is going to happen to you. That way you have a real world experience that then you can start trying to figure out the math and understand what happened. So those are two things we know. If we're not good at those two things, it's going to be hard to be really successful in future math and science courses or jobs that really rely heavily on that. The other thing is we got all sorts of technology now. You can do a brain scan, right? We can study the brain. And we know that everything behind the frontal cortex, which is this frontal area, everything behind that, as humans, we're wired to learn experientially. And all that means is we're wired to learn through the senses, through touching, through doing, not just on paper and pencil, right? So when you think about what we're trying to do in the math class is we're trying to, through prisms and through the VR technology, we're trying to leverage that research, right? In other words, we know how your brain is wired to learn, and we want to help your teachers create experiences like that for you in the classroom. That way you get to touch, and and it's, you can't go on a field trip every day, right? You can't go do hands-on stuff every day in math class. But with the VR headset you can, because we could take you into a new world every day where you have to move things around, use your body to learn the math and to understand the math. Does that make sense?
Mostly.
I know that was a lot. I mean, I dropped the research on you and all of that, but um, yeah, that's essentially, if I had to simplify it down for the audience or for your peers, we know how the brain works and how it learns best, but we haven't always had the tools as teachers to teach you in those ways. So with Prisms, we're trying to give your teachers a way that teaches you that lines up with how your
Good
brain.
morning, good morning. It is a great day to be a warhawk. Happy Throwback Tuesday. Here are your morning announcements for Thursday, February 6, 2025. Today is an A-Day. Our Central Middle School vision and
So
mission.
this
At
this is
Central Middle School,
obviously
we
the
are dedicated to
morning
empowering students
announcements.
to excel
So this is gonna be like a
academically,
minute break.
emotionally, and
So
It's
socially.
all good. I thought you were going to say we interrupt your programming to
To
bring you some
empower
important
students to
news.
thrive academically,
I
emotionally,
should
and
have.
socially
I'm gonna
in
keep
a
that in
safe
mind
and
actually.
supportive environment. Our higher values we proudly uphold are integrity, honesty, excellence,
Yep.
accountability, and relationships. For our important dates and events, Three-Peat Spirit Week is still in full effect. We are excited to celebrate the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row, and we are going to be victorious. We want to thank everyone who has been wearing a Chiefs attire. Tomorrow is Friday, February 7th, Fired Up Friday. Wear everything Chiefs in the week with a bang by wearing all your Chiefs gear. Let's turn school red and gold. Don't forget that during advisory today and tomorrow will be iReady Math. Student Council is sponsoring candy grams in the cafeteria today until Friday. Winning Wednesday is coming up on February 12th. Mark your calendars. Get ready for Black History Spirit Week from February 24th to the
Almost done.
28th and Black History
Oh, you're
Program
good.
on Friday, January 28th. This is all for your morning announcements. The grind never stops 2.0, so let's make every
The
day a win.
grind never stops. I love it. When I was a principal, we did a rap every morning on the intercom. The same rap every day. It was about our school. It was about the values we wanted to have as students. And I haven't been a principal at that school in like 15 years, but I just found out the other day from somebody who still works there that they're still doing that rap 15 years later every morning on the intercom. So if you guys need a custom rap for your, for your morning announcements, just let me know.
So you've already given us plenty of examples. So that's good.
So, background, have we talked about that?
True. Um what schools did you have to go to, and what degrees did you have to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, a great question. So after high school, I went to the University of Texas at Austin. You know, the Longhorns, and that's where I did my undergraduate work. And to be honest, at the time, I was really into music, and so I was trying to figure out what my career would be. But the people I always looked up to the most were educators. So while I was at UT Austin, I kind of changed my degree from a science major. You know, I thought I wanted to be a doctor at first, but when I really thought about it, what I wanted to do was inspire the next generation, teach the next generation. And again, those were the people I always looked up to most: my coaches, my teachers. So I got a bachelor's degree in biology and Spanish, and then I became and a teacher certification to become a teacher. So I became a teacher. Now, after teaching, when I decided to become a principal, I had to go to what we call graduate school, right? That's a master's program after your bachelor's. And for that, I had to get a degree in educational administration so that I could become a principal. So the undergraduate was like 4 years of school, and then the master's program or the graduate program is more like 2 years of school. So I went to school for about 6 years, 6 years of college to so that I could become a principal. Now, once I had that experience, that leadership experience, really translates well to other industries, right? So even though I didn't have necessarily sales experience, because I had been a leader and I had learned how to communicate effectively, um, the company that I told you about earlier, Flocabulary, they were excited to bring me on to their sales team. And all that means is, you know, sometimes sales sounds like a bad word, a bad thing. All it means is you're helping people better understand the challenges and the problems they have, and you bring a solution to them to hopefully help them meet their goals. And I felt like that was something I was always doing as a principal. And so when I got into this ed tech world, that's essentially what I do. I talk to schools about the metrics, about the challenges they're facing, and try to see if Prisms is something that can help them solve those problems.
Hmm. I don't know.
Now, I will say some people go when they first go to college, they sign up for business administration or finance or marketing. So a lot of people who are maybe in the role that I'm in now, like my current role, I'm the head of sales or the head of partnerships for Prisms. It's a higher level role. A lot of people that have this same role as me, maybe they got their MBA, which is a master's in business administration, right? Maybe they got a business undergraduate degree. But for me though, I didn't take that path. I took the educational path. Um, but it turns out a lot of skills that we learn as teachers and as principals are helpful in other jobs too.
Hmm. Interesting. I don't really
Thank
have a
you.
lot to say.
I know I'm talking a lot. I'm probably answering some of your questions before you ask them. Um,
You
so
indeed are.
let me ask you. So when you think about your own math classroom experience, what do you feel like are some things that go well in the math classroom that you enjoy and that help you learn? And do you have any idea about maybe ways math class could be different or better for you and your peers?
So, I would have to say for me, my math class, it's a little different because, like I said, I'm in algebra, so you know.
Yeah,
But um, I would say overall, I like it. It's a nice class. Like I said, it's not hard, not easy, but and honestly, there would be nothing I would like to change if I could. Um,
that's great to hear. I'm really glad. the principal in me is really glad that you're enjoying your math experience. When you look at, there's a test that everybody takes across the nation. You might have taken it before, the NAEP test, the NAEP test, right? Have you taken a test like that before? Or have you taken a standardized test before? You got to fill in the bubble sheet and all of that. So kids all over the country, not just in Kansas City, are taking tests like that, right? And
Mhm.
when we look at the scores, this based on the most recent data, only 28% of eighth graders demonstrated proficiency in math. So I know you're advanced, you're in Algebra 1, so you get the percentage, but that means less than 3 out of 10 eighth graders essentially passed that math test. Now, let me ask you, do you think that's a good amount, or do you think that can be improved upon? It can
Very,
be
very
it can
much
be
improved
it
on.
can be improved upon, right? And again, you might be having a different experience, it sounds like, which is great. But what we know based on the data is there's a lot of kids out there that aren't learning math to the degree that they need to, and as a result, they're not feeling successful, right? Because they're not passing these tests. And we can get into a whole conversation on the tests and how they're designed and this and that. But for what it is, that's the test we take currently, and the data could be a lot better. Now, I want to be clear. Having been a teacher and a principal myself, I believe 100% that teachers and kids do the best that they can with the resources they can. But again, thinking back to prisms and how the brain learns, even sometimes when we're sitting in a math class and we feel like we're learning it, bless you. If we're not using our bodies to learn and we're not really getting the real world connectedness to what we're learning, sometimes that information, well, obviously, a lot of times that information doesn't stick. You know what I mean? So, again, through prisms, we want to give kids those, maybe kids who are not performing well right now, that are part of that 7 out of 10 that didn't pass the test. We want to make sure they have an opportunity to learn in a way that helps them really keep that information stuck in their brain and really understand the math and why they need it, how to do it. And so, again, I think so. Let me ask you this: when you think about, and I don't want you to feel like you're uh, claiming it's a negative experience, but I want to ask you: do you feel like and not just this year, but in general, do you feel like you've gotten to do a lot of hands-on learning in math, or has it been a lot of paper pencil? Do you feel like you've learned when you're going to use the math? Do you know careers that are tied to the algebra you're learning? Or are those some things that maybe could be added to your experience?
Um, for me, we do a lot of paper and pencil. Sometimes we do a fun little game uh, once in a while, but I don't know. And for this person that just got here,
I'm in regular math. I'm not in algebra. It's I wouldn't hear from most of your questions, so I don't. I forgot what you
N-
said.
yeah, no, no. What we were talking about. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yep.
My name's Ike. What's your name?
Kaylin.
Kaylin.
Yep.
Cool. Um, well, so what we were talking about is when you think about your math class, what do you enjoy about it, and do you have any ideas on how it could be better, um, or more engaging for you? And it's not a diss by any means. It's we got to have these conversations on what's going well and what are things that we could make better to get better results.
Uh, I mean, the best thing about my math class, the group learning. We be at the boards. It's fun. It's engaging. And I learn
I
a
love
lot
that.
from people. I don't think we really make it better. I can't think of any way to make it better. So
Well, again, like we were talking about, I really love hearing that you're having a great experience in math class. It sounds like you have some awesome math teachers. that are trying to make it interactive. You mentioned games, you mentioned group work at the board, working collaboratively, being able to get up out of your seat and not just do paper and pencil. So I love hearing that. And the second thing that you might have missed that we were talking about is when you look at the whole United States as a whole, that might not be the experience that every kid is getting, right? Because when you look at the results, less than 3 out of 10 eighth graders on this past test were able to pass it or demonstrate what we would call, say, demonstrate proficiency. So it sounds like you guys are having an incredible experience, but for a lot of middle school math kids, um, you know, even with teachers doing their best, even with kids doing their best, a lot of kids are having a hard time getting the results that we want them to get. So what we were talking about is brainstorming, different ways to make learning fun, right? Engaging to help you understand why you're learning the math, not just memorizing it. And so what we've been chatting about is the company that I work for called Prisms, and we use the VR headsets uh, in order to learn math. So every kid puts on a headset and you get transported to another world so that you can experience the math happening to you. You can, if you're learning quadratics, which that's an algebra concept, you can maybe in the VR headset, you're actually flying drones and dropping off packages like Amazon does in certain cities, right? So we try to give you those experiences so you know why the math is important, and then we help you understand the math. So instead of maybe filling out a chart on a piece of paper, when you're in the VR world, you can grab the x-axis and the y-axis and change the coordinates inside of the VR world. That way you're using your body to learn.
That is, see, I've always liked the fact that something 3D you can actually like scale on those little programs, but it's not really 3D because it's on a 2D screen. So I'm kind of cut off halfway, but I I always I've always liked the thought of you being able to be in a world realistic and have 3D objects you can actually scale. I've
Yeah,
I've always kind of wanted that actually. So that
yeah.
is it's
Well,
quite
it exists now.
nice.
We haven't always had when the VR headsets first came out, it was more like they would be used for like a virtual field trip. So you put the headset on, you weren't necessarily walking through it, but you could look around maybe at a zoo and see a bunch of things. But you couldn't like walk in there, grab stuff, move charts around, fly a drone, drop packages off. You couldn't necessarily do all that. But with the newer generation of spatial computers, now you can. And what's cool is you can actually walk in this world and move around, grab stuff, throw stuff, or you can sit down and you use the controllers on the joystick to walk, right? To walk, to look around. So the things that you said you've always wanted, this 3D world where you can actually not just be looking at a 2D screen like you're playing Fortnite or something, right? That's 2D, right? But now with the spatial computers, you can get in the 3D world and you can actually go grab things and move things, and so yeah, you're spot on. And again, that's how the brain learns, right? If you can actually go touch something in the 3D world and move a chart and physically use your body, I promise you it's gonna stick in your brain more than learning math in the 2D world, right?
Yeah. You, we heard that.
Whoa, that just went dark.
Got a
Sorry.
little blackout, split second blackout. We're back. We're back live.
We heard you had bars. Can you please share?
I'll share some bars.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I knew you guys was gonna ask me to kick a little rap. Let me see if I got something new for you guys.
All right.
I'm not gonna lie, I had no idea what that is. I had no idea.
Uh All right.
Give us an outro. Give us the most glorious outro ever.
The most glorious bars. I love it.
Yes.
Um, all right, you ready?
Yep.
All right. Oh, you know what? I got an idea. Bars for you. I'll do this one first. Money, but money don't make the man. I've seen it too many times. A coward get power.
No, you cut it out.
You're liking a little bit.
How long can you keep with so
Frozen.
many lies? Like, oh, hold on, we'll run it back. Did I come back? Am I back?
Yep.
All right, let's
Barely
run
up.
it back from the top. Can you hear me? Thumbs up.
It's,
You hear me all right?
yeah.
The money, but money don't make the man. I've seen it too many times. A coward get power, start thinking he it, but really a clown like Pennywise. Can't look in the mirror and tell the truth. How long can you keep up so many lies? Life ain't about how much you can stack, but if you can impact many lives. If you had it all and lost it, could you get it back? I could, no problem. See, we don't cry about the issue or run from the challenge. My team solve them. One thing for certain, the devil lurking, long as the world revolving. But my God is working, so as a person, you know I stay evolving. What you think? Rate the bars, 1 to 10.
That was a 10.
Oh, I
That was
appreciate it. I
brilliant.
appreciate it.
Anyhow,
I love it.
we
I
are ending
appreciate
the
it.
stream now. We do not have a proper exit. That was perfect.
Yeah, it really was.
Thank
We'll
you.
drop the mic on that. Well, first of all, before we cut,
Here's the mic drop.
there we go. Hey, before we cut out, I want to commend you guys. I think it's great that you guys are